Hey, welcome back to another episode of Zach Pasquarello raising $5 million in his investment fund, Zip Capital. I'm going live every day, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's talk about it. How I built $8,000 a month passive income with my own money, real estate, private money lending. Let me just be clear. There's a difference between active income and passive income. In order to make money from passive income, you have to have active income. Don't ever let anybody sugarcoat this. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you can just magically start earning passive income. I kept it real with my bookkeeping business. I told you it's going to be very hard to start and grow your own bookkeeping business. I'm going to keep it real with passive income, real estate, private money lending. You have to have active income first. You need to save money. You need to get money. You need a cash cow, a golden goose. So let me just address the title in the video right away in the first 60 seconds. I know this might go against some YouTube SEO click through experts, but let me just give you all the secrets in the first 60 seconds and then we'll talk more about it in the next 30 minutes. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, let me know in the chat. I will do my best to get to everybody's questions and comments throughout this 30-minute live video. So how did I do it? How did I build $8,000 a month in passive income? It's pretty simple. I saved $800,000. That's it. Once you have $800,000, you can also make $8,000 a month passive income because I'm charging 12% fixed annual interest on my real estate loans. 12% annual, 1% per month, $800,000 cash, 8,000 bucks a month passive income. So you might be thinking, Zach, that's cool. I don't have $800,000. I get it. I'm not assuming that anybody else that's watching this video has $800,000, but you can get started with just $25,000. You can start private money lending. So the goal of this channel, I'm trying to do two things. I'll be honest with you. I'll be upfront, transparent, radical transparency. I'm trying to teach other people how to do private money lending simply because I love doing it. Obviously, I love talking about it. I'm spending 30 minutes every day going live on YouTube just so I can talk about private money lending. And then my second goal is to raise $5 million in Zip Capital. So if you see behind me on the board, $358,000, that's what I have raised right now. And then I have anywhere from 800,000 to about $1 million of my own cash lent out right now on private money loans. So I love sharing my journey because I feel like it's relatable. I was searching for YouTube content a couple years ago, and everything on YouTube was just $100 million founder, guy sells his business for $1 billion, how I make $5 million a year. That's cool. That's exciting. That's interesting. Not super relatable. So I'm sharing my journey as just a regular dude, just another guy who started his business 5 years ago, got $1 million. I'm not a mega millionaire. I'm not super rich. I don't live in a mansion. I live in a regular house, drive a regular car. I just started my bookkeeping business. So I'm just going to share my journey with you. I started 2 years ago creating YouTube videos talking about my bookkeeping business, and I was excited to share how I made $9,000 in 1 month just as a bookkeeper. And now I've got 80 clients. I'm making $40,000 a month in my bookkeeping business, making $8,000 passive income with my own money. I make other money other ways, but I'm just committed to sharing my journey. So from $9,000 a month 2 years ago, hopefully $1 million per year of profit in the future, maybe this year, who knows? And then beyond. I'm going to keep making these videos and just keep sharing my journey. So I know a lot of you who are watching this right now are in the process of starting your business. So let me just give you some general business advice, and then we'll jump right into it with private money lending. You got to be a savage to grow your business. What do I mean with that? You got to have thick skin. You got to take risk. You got to put yourself out there. Sales and marketing. It's the hardest part about starting a business, but it's really the only way to start a business. Unless you have an amazing network before you get started, unless you have a couple customers who are going to pay you thousands of dollars before you even start your business, you got to be a savage because it's scary to put yourself out there, but there's no other way to do it. You have to tell the world, hey, look at me. I just started this business. Let me know if you want to work with me. Here's why I'm a good fit. That's basically it. You got to do marketing. You got to put yourself out there. You got to tell people, and you have to do sales, one-on-one conversations, cold outreach, send messages, send emails, friend request people on Facebook, connect with people on LinkedIn, follow people on Instagram. You got to be a savage to grow your business. I just recently started, literally just today, as a matter of fact, I just started using LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Never really used it before, but I think I'm going to try to use it to grow my investment fund. So I will keep you all posted because I think it could probably be a good option for you trying to grow your bookkeeping business as well. But I'm going to try to use LinkedIn Sales Navigator to send messages to potential people who might be interested investing in Zip Capital. So I will keep you posted. I sent like 50 messages right before this video started, doing messages like that. So marketing and sales. Marketing requires a lot of creative juice. Marketing's hard for me to do at the end of the day. 4 p.m., my brain is foggy, I'm tired, I'm burnt out. I don't feel like being creative. But what I do at the end of the day, or if I have a free 30 minutes, sending messages, sending emails, doing phone calls, sending text messages, doing this cold outreach to your followers or your contacts or your subscribers or your friends. Doing that cold outreach is kind of mindless, easy work. So if you ever feel like you're in a slump, maybe consider just open up LinkedIn, 30 minutes, just copy and paste, blast out a few messages. You never know. What's the worst thing that will happen? Worst case scenario, somebody gets annoyed by you sending them a message. Worst case scenario, somebody thinks badly about you. Worst case scenario, somebody thinks you're stupid for taking the risk of trying to start a business and then trying to do marketing and sales to make money in your business. That's the worst case scenario. None of those things are really that bad because people are going to judge you no matter what you try to do, no matter how you do it, when you do it, why you do it, no matter what, people are going to judge you. So, what's the worst thing that can happen? They might judge you. What's the best thing that could happen? You might get your first client. That's amazing. You might get somebody to pay you $500 a month to do your bookkeeping. I might get somebody to invest $100,000 into Zip Capital just by sending them a message, just by reaching out. So, you got to be a savage to grow your business. Have thick skin. Just do it. Just put yourself out there. What's the worst thing that could happen? Okay, let's talk about private money lending. So yesterday, I rambled on for 30 straight minutes, giving advice on how I do private money lending. And I'm just going to basically pick up where I left off. So how do I underwrite and how do I protect my investments? So I have strict loan to value limits. So I look at the after rehab value of the property because typically I am funding purchase price and rehab on these properties. But I look at the after rehab value and I never exceed 70% of the after rehab value. This leaves a strong equity cushion in the event of a default or a foreclosure. So to put this into perspective, let's say there's a property, $200,000 ARV. So maybe the real estate investor found a great deal, off-market property, foreclosure, auction, whatever the case may be. They found a property selling for $100,000. Maybe they think they could put $40,000 into it and fix it up. And then they looked at comparable properties in the neighborhood. And this is just an example. You're going to have to do specific research on these specific properties if you want to do private money lending for real estate investors. Let's just say $100,000 purchase price, and they figure based on the interior and the exterior and what type of repairs and maintenance and rehab they need to do, they figure $40,000 is my budget for rehab. So now we're all in $140,000. Now, if that property can sell for $200,000, then that leaves us a good equity cushion. So we're 70% loan to value of the after rehab value of the property. So that's how I limit the LTV based on the ARV of these properties. 70% of $200,000 is the max that I'll lend. So that way, in the event of a default, so when I do the rehab loan, so I don't just give these guys $140,000. I'll give them $100,000, maybe $95,000, and then I give them their rehab draw in 3 draws. So I make them send me pictures before, so I get an idea of the condition of the property, and then I will give them their first draw, $40,000 divided by 3. Let's just say $12,000, $13,000, $14,000. So let's just say $13,000. I'll give them $13,000 after they complete 35% of the rehab based on the pictures, based on the scope of work, based on their renovation plan and the rehab budget. $13,000 after they rehab 35%. And then the second rehab draw goes out $13,000 once they've completed 65% of the project. It's not an exact science, but I'm looking at, appliances, HVAC, roof, framing, drywall, flooring, landscaping, interior windows, doors, painting, things like that, cabinets in the remodeling the bathroom, things like that, finishing the basement. So I'm looking 35%, 65% for the first and second draw. And then the third draw comes out only after the property is listed for sale on the MLS. So that protects me. The project has to be 100% done. So that way, they list the property on the MLS for $200,000. I'm all in $140,000. There's a ton of equity there. In the event of a default, I take the property, even after paying legal fees. Let's just say I quickly sell it for $180,000. I'm probably still going to make money. That's the whole point. So everything is secured by a first lien mortgage. So in the event of a default, then I get to take ownership of the property. Every loan is backed by a legally recorded lien, which is a mortgage. So I can take the property back if the borrower defaults. If they miss one payment, that's technically defaulting on the loan. And then I could technically foreclose on the property. So nobody wants to go through a foreclosure. I have to pay for legal fees, could potentially affect the borrower's credit. It's just not a good situation. I've got to probably wait 6 to 12 months before the courts and the attorneys work everything out and I actually get the property, and then I have to sell the property. I would much rather the real estate investor just simply sell the property. It's really just there by design in case of emergency, if you absolutely have to foreclose on the property. So I would be willing to work with the borrower. Hey, you missed the June payment, not okay, but let's work it out. Can you make both payments in July? You can? Great. I'm not going to foreclose on the property because you missed one loan payment. You can't pay July or June. Now we're going to start talking. What's going on? What's the problem? Let's meet. Let me come to the property. Let me walk through the property with you. What's going on? Let's work together to figure out a solution. Nobody wants to go through a foreclosure. And then finally, underwriting, risk mitigation. It really all comes down to borrower screening. So I am looking at 2 most recent tax returns, 2 most recent bank statements, financial reports, their adjusted gross income, their balance sheet, their profit and loss. Some of these people don't have a ton of experience. Some of these people might not even be entrepreneurs. So I will look at their pay stubs. Let me see, what's your W-2 job? Are you making $12 an hour as a fast food restaurant worker, or are you making $150,000 as an upper level manager at a company? So if you're making $150,000 a year, you might not necessarily be a better real estate investor than somebody who's a fast food worker, but you do have better personal cash flow. So in the event something goes south, you just have stronger income to support your real estate investments, to support paying me back. That's what it's all about. I want to make sure I get my money back. That's what underwriting, risk management, that's what it's all about. I just want to make sure that I get my money back. So I'm looking at 2 most recent tax returns, financial reports, pay stubs, and I'm also looking at the real estate investor's experience. So this is where having the bookkeeping experience really comes in handy. I had no idea what a HUD was. HUD, HUD. This is the document that you get when you buy or sell a property. It outlines every transaction, every expense, every cost, every line item on the transaction. I had no idea what this was before I started bookkeeping, but after I got some experience, started working with real estate investors, I look at HUDs every single day at this point. For the past 2 years, I have literally looked at HUDs every day, multiple HUDs, multiple states, multiple real estate investors, multiple transactions, wholesale, fix and flip, refinance. I have so much HUD experience. I know exactly what I'm looking at. I know how to account for them, doing journal entries from an accounting perspective. And then I also know the ins and outs from like a title and insurance and lender perspective. So I know a lot about HUDs. So I'm asking the real estate investor, send me your 2 most recent HUDs from your most recent acquisition, purchase, and disposition sale. Or if it's a buy and hold, send me your refinance HUD. I just want to see the numbers. I want to see that you were able to pay back your previous lender. I want to see that you were able to refinance and your new mortgage paid off your old mortgage. I want to see that you got cash back at selling. I'm going to make sure that you didn't lose money on your two most recent deals. And people will tell you whatever they want you to hear. So I just always say, hey, like, save the time. I don't need you to explain things. I'm not necessarily saying this. I'm just kind of thinking this like, hey, that's great. I love your story, but just send me the documents. Let me just look at the documents, because if the documents look suspicious, they're going to give you 5 different reasons why, oh, it wasn't really like that, or oh, like this happened or that happened, or this extenuating circumstance, like this is still going on. So we haven't quite sold the property yet. So you haven't successfully done 2 flips in the past 12 months because you're still holding both the properties. So just save yourself, save them, save yourself, save the time, just review the documents. And then I look at the property, specifically the property, because that is what the first lien mortgage is on. The property is what is securing your loan as a private money lender. So I review the comps and the scope of work. I'm not going to go into too much more detail about that right now. I feel like I've talked about that a lot over the past 2 weeks, but comps and scope of work. Let's move on. How about let's talk about the power of monthly passive income. That's what we're here for. Passive income, monthly income, predictable cash flow, monthly payments. If you're a private money lender and you give somebody $100,000 in a loan, you're going to make $1,000 a week, $1,000 a month. This is consistent income. It's reliable, and you don't have to work for it. This could maybe pay off your rent, or this could maybe pay for a car, and you don't really have to do anything. You got $100,000 you lent out, secured by real estate, and now you're making 1% per month. So, and then you can also reinvest. You can reinvest your cash flow. And so the next time you do a loan, instead of having $100,000, now you've got $106,000. So you can take advantage of compounding interest. So instead of making $1,000, next time you'll make $1,060, $1,600, $1,060 if you have $106,000. So it's not much, but it'll compound on itself. And then you just get some freedom from active work. Like I am to the point now with my $800,000 saved up. I made a ton of sacrifices over the past 2 to 4 years, really 5 years. I quit my job. We lived frugally. We saved our money. We didn't go on crazy expensive vacations. I didn't buy a Lamborghini, although I probably could have. We didn't travel around the world, which would have been fun, but I made sacrifices. I was growing my business. And now I am to the point where honestly, we could live off of my passive income. I could retire right now. 31 years old, been an entrepreneur for 5 years. I have grown my business and saved my money to the point where I could stop working and just live off of my passive income. I'm not going to do that because I enjoy working. I get a lot of enjoyment and satisfaction out of working hard. It's kind of like one of my few things that I'm good at and few things that I really enjoy doing. Love spending time with my family, love going to church, love spending time with friends and going to the gym, but I also really enjoy working hard. So I'm not going to do that, but just having the security, knowing that I could, is really, really nice. Just knowing that I could live off of my passive income. So if you are wondering, wow, how do I get to that point? This is amazing. Like, I love this. If you're wondering how to get to that point, you gotta have active income. You need a cash cow. You need a golden goose. You got to make sacrifices and work hard. 2 to 4 years as an entrepreneur, 2 to 4 years, save your money. And before you know it, you'll have $25,000, $100,000, $200,000 of money saved up. And then you might be able to live off of your passive income. It's just nice to know that you have that. Compounding growth opportunity. Let's talk about compounding growth. Reinvesting monthly distributions. So like I said, if you have $100,000, then you could reinvest your money. And I think I'm going to try to share my screen. I'm not going to share my screen. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen. So let's talk about the power of compounding interest. So like I've said before, you can make $100,000. You can make 12%. Let me share my screen. Let me just go to it. Bear with me here. Let me share my screen. Compounding interest calculator. All right. Can you see that? Hopefully you can. Okay. Compounding interest calculator. Let's let's talk about it. Initial investment, let's say you've got $100,000. Monthly contribution. Let's say you're not even going to add anything. Let's say length of time in years, let's say 20 years. So let's say right now you're 30 years old, you've got $100,000 and you put it all into a private money loan. Okay, so let's account for taxes because everyone's gonna say in the comments like, yeah, that's great. What about taxes? So I'm earning 12% annual interest, and then you can also earn 3% origination fee, and you can do these loans twice per year. So let's say 18% annual interest, but keep in mind you got to pay taxes. So sure, let's assume you're going to pay 30% in taxes, which is pretty high, but let's just say 30% in taxes. So 18% times 70% is your real return. That's 12.6%. Okay, so let's say your interest rate is 12.6%. And then let's compound this semi-annually because we're doing loans every 6 months. So $100,000, 12.6% interest rate. That's after you pay taxes. So you're really making 18%, but you got to pay taxes. 20 years, $100,000. Let's just see where this could be. So you could have potentially in 20 years, $1 million just by starting with $100,000 today. In 20 years, all you have to do is private money lending, and you could potentially have $1.1 million. Fixed returns, 18% annual interest rate, pretty incredible. And whenever I realized how much you can make private money lending, as soon as I realized that, I went all in. I started doing this 2.5 years ago, and I went all in on private money lending. So super excited about that. And you can do the same thing. You can start with $25,000. Okay, let's wrap this up. So common myths about private money lending. Myth: it's risky like the stock market. In reality, your loans are secured by real estate, and you can have conservative LTV ratios. So you can even lend less than 70% LTV of the ARV. You can lend 80% of the purchase price, and that's super secure. In the event of a default or a foreclosure, you're probably going to get your money back. So is it risky like the stock market? It's certainly not volatile like the stock market because the stock market goes up and down. These are fixed returns. 12% annual interest is what I'm getting with my private money loans. Interest income. So it's not volatile like the stock market. You're not going to get the big swings. Cryptocurrency, I made 50% last year. That's amazing. I've never personally invested in crypto. This is not necessarily designed to replace your speculative cryptocurrency investments. It's totally different. We're talking about fixed, secured returns, reliable, secured returns, secured with real estate. So it's not volatile like the stock market or cryptocurrency. It's more so, honestly, I believe it's a better alternative to treasury bills or bank CDs. Not nowhere near as secure, high risk, high reward. There's going to be some risk involved with private money lending, but as long as you have a good real estate attorney drafting your documents, as long as you have a trustworthy title agent who's actually recording the mortgage, your investment is secured by the real estate that you're lending on. Another myth: you need to be a bank or a large lending institution with millions of dollars to get started. But the real truth is, many lenders get started with $5,000. $25,000 is probably ideal, but many lenders get started. I started with $50,000, and then I got an SBA loan for $150,000, and then I did a loan for $180,000. That was my third loan, $180,000. So you don't need to get started with millions of dollars. I got started with 50. You can start with $25,000. And then another myth is that you have to be a full-time investor. It really doesn't take that much time to do a private money loan. The first time you do it, it might take you 10 hours because you got to go to the bank and find a title agent and find a real estate attorney. But once you develop the process, right now it takes me like 1 to 3 hours to do a private money loan. So you can absolutely still work your full-time job, run your business. You don't need to be a full-time real estate investor. Okay, let's get to the questions. Let's see what other people are saying. Hello, not sure if this is the right platform to put up this statement, but would like to learn more on bookkeeping in general for job skill. So I have obviously my YouTube channel. I make a ton of videos teaching you how to do bookkeeping. So go check out all my other videos. I've got a ton of videos out there. In order to raise investment funds for Zip Capital, are you approaching marketing sales the same as you did with your bookkeeping business, or do you have to alter your plan to reach your target market? So, Steele, I am actually noticing that LinkedIn seems to be a better place for trying to raise capital because a lot of my investors are actually W 2 employees, and there are a lot of W 2 employees on LinkedIn, just from what I've noticed. So, I'm targeting 35 to 50-year-old senior level W-2 employees who have a $250,000 salary and have $50,000 or more sitting in a savings account. So those people are on LinkedIn. But for my bookkeeping business, it was all Facebook. But it's the exact same marketing strategy. So it's a different target audience, but it's the exact same marketing strategy. I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm creating content on Facebook. I'm teaching people what I'm doing. I'm talking about it. I'm spreading awareness, giving tips, providing updates on the growth of my business and my progress, sharing stories, Instagram stories, Facebook stories, creating short videos, long videos on YouTube, posting pictures with a caption, posting infographics, posting little tweets, like one sentence short posts. It's the exact same marketing strategy. Everything that I learned over the past 5 years growing my bookkeeping business is exactly what I'm doing to raise capital in my investment fund. How do you prefer to learn? Is there a particular outlet you refer to in order to learn the lending industry? Also, what book are you currently reading? So, Steele, unfortunately, I don't read. I know it's not great. I know I should be reading. It's super great for my brain. What I'm doing right now is I'm listening to a ton of Alex Hormozy podcasts. I love his content on scaling and growing a business. And so I'm just listening to his podcast. How do I prefer to learn? I prefer to learn through experience. I learn a lot by trial and error. I'm the kind of guy who, if you give me a good idea, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And then I'm going to learn from my mistakes. Then I'm going to get better. I am very good at execution. I'm not great. I'm not a great visionary. I'm not great at coming up with good ideas. But once I get a good idea, I execute on that idea super fast. I make mistakes. I learn from my mistakes. I get better. Are you going to be doing any live videos like this for bookkeeping, or are you done doing live videos for bookkeeping? I am probably done doing live videos for bookkeeping, but like I said, I've got hundreds of videos on my YouTube channel. Just go ahead and rewatch all the other videos that I've already put out. I literally talked about everything I could think about talking about. I'm a bookkeeping niching into real estate investors. I've watched all of your REI bookkeeping videos and want to go deeper. Are there any other resources you'd recommend to master the nuances? I'm not sure. Park bookkeeping. I learned a lot about real estate investing just by getting clients, just by learning from experience and getting clients. So I'm not sure if there are other resources. I would just try to get your first real estate investor client and then just go from there. Just learn how to do the journal entry for the HUDs, learn how to track work in progress, learn how to track fix and flips. That's going to be your biggest improvement as a real estate investor bookkeeper. What mistakes did you make in the beginning with REI investors that you'd avoid now? Are you going to continue the weekly bookkeeping calls or end those as well? I will continue the weekly bookkeeping calls. I do have a live group Q&A every Monday at 3 p.m. Are you going to continue the week? I have my first REI client, but feel like I'm learning on the fly. That's going to happen. The two biggest mistakes I made were not recording the HUDs properly whenever they bought and sold properties, and then also not holding the inventory for fix and flip. So when they buy a property, when they fix that property, when they pay holding costs and interest payments on that property, those are not expenses. They're not, think about it like inventory. So that all gets put into a holding account, like an inventory account. And then whenever they sell the property, then you expense all the commissions and interest and rehab and holding and utilities and taxes and insurance and the purchase price of the property. You expense all of that into cost of goods sold after, like whenever they sell the property, not throughout the flipping process, the flipping, not throughout while they're flipping it. I'm a real estate investor, about 5K a month passive income. looking to scale up. Harry, that's awesome. Maybe you can start private money lending. But yeah, Harry, congratulations. That's exciting. All right, everybody, it's 11:30, so I'm cutting it short today. I hope this was helpful. If you want to learn more about private money lending, stay tuned. Every day at 11 a.m., I'm making videos. Comment on my video, send me an email if you have questions, and I'll do my best to answer all of your questions. I appreciate all of your support so much. I'm trying to raise $5 million in Zip Capital. So my goal is to teach 99% of you how to do your own private money lending, with the hopes that 1% of you will invest into Zip Capital because you don't want to do private money lending on your own. When is my next live stream? I'm going live every day at 11 a.m. Okay, one more question. Isn't private money lending risky though? So AJ, not sure if you missed the whole live stream, but I just went through my entire risk mitigation process. So AJ, maybe you could rewatch the live stream, catch up on some of my comments, and then tune back in tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time if you have more questions. I'd be happy to answer your questions, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day.